At graduation, my mother disowned me so I unleashed a secret that shattered our family. My name is Chloe Hayes. And at 18, I stood on the precipice of my future, my university graduation. The auditorium hummed with excited whispers, proud parents. In the quiet rustle of gowns, I scanned the rows, my gaze settling on my adoptive mother, Vivian Sterling, and her husband, Robert. Vivian, a beacon of polished perfection, wore a satisfied smile, oblivious that her carefully constructed world was about to unravel. She's always been more of a project than a daughter. I once overheard Vivian confide to a friend. That single sentence, delivered with a dismissive wave of her perfectly manicured hand, had defined my life. Chloe Hayes, the dean's voice, boomed my cue. As I walked towards the podium, Vivian stood up, not to applaud, but to deliver a public decree. Her voice, usually so controlled, carried across the silent auditorium. Before you accept that diploma, Chloe, I need to make something crystal clear. Effective today, you are no longer a part of this family. No more financial support, no more. Tice, you're on your own. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Phones once recording proud graduates swiveled towards us. Robert, pale and stiff, tugged at Vivian's sleeve, but she shook him off. This was her moment, her calculated performance of righteous indignation. She expected tears, humiliation, a broken spirit. Instead, I smiled. Not a sad, broken smile, but one filled with a quiet, fierce resolve. Since we're sharing family secrets, I said, my voice steady, amplified by the microphone, allow me to add one of my own. Vivian's perfect smile faltered. Robert sank into his seat. The air crackled with anticipation. You're absolutely right, Vivian, I continued, looking directly at her. I am not your biological daughter. I've always known that. My biological mother, Aunt Sarah, made sure I understood how much I was wanted, how deeply loved. Vivian's posture stiffened. This wasn't going according to her script, but here's the thing about family secrets. Vivian, I said, pulling a worn-sealed envelope from my graduation folder. Sometimes, the people throwing stones live in the biggest glass houses. The rustle of the paper was impossibly loud. Before I was even a thought, Vivian, I paused, letting the words hang in the air. You had another child, a daughter, just like me, a secret you meticulously buried to protect your precious image. Chaos erupted. Gasps, shouts, phones recording from every angle. Vivian's face drained of color, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. Robert was frozen, eyes wide with horror. You were so worried about reputation, about perception. I pressed on, my voice gaining power, that you erased her from your life. A calculated act, wouldn't you agree? And yet, you stand here, disowning me for the world to see, while your own past is a testament to far greater betrayals. Vivian made a guttural sound, her eyes darting wildly. I have the proof right here, I stated, waving a faded birth certificate and old letters from Aunt Sarah, passed to me years ago by a discreet family lawyer. Documents that reveal a different story about the perfect Vivian Sterling. A story of deliberate erasure. Vivian bolted, stumbling through the rows, leaving Robert paralyzed in his seat. The heavy auditorium door slammed behind her. I turned, back to Robert, who stared at me with shattered eyes. You wanted to cut me off, I said, my voice clear over the lingering murmurs. To humiliate me. Congratulations. You just gave me the perfect opportunity to reveal the truth. I tucked the documents back into my folder and walked towards the dean, who, looking utterly overwhelmed, handed me my diploma. Congratulations, Miss Hayes, he whispered. Thank you, I replied, posing for the official photo as if nothing had happened. It's been a truly memorable day. As I walked off the stage, diploma in hand, I could hear Robert behind me, his voice cracked and desperate. Chloe, wait, please, we need to talk. But I didn't turn. I had spent 18 years waiting for their approval, their acceptance. I had spent months preparing for this moment, knowing that their calculated cruelty would eventually reach its peak. The trap they'd set for me, the public humiliation, had backfired spectacularly. They'd wanted to quietly cast me aside. Instead, they gave me the perfect stage for the truth. Every word I'd said was true. Months of careful investigation, of cross-referencing Aunt Sarah's vague journal entries with public records, had led me to the truth. Vivian thought she was so strategic, so superior, manipulating everyone. She was wrong. As I pushed through the auditorium doors, the chaos behind me faded. I was done with their games, their pretense, their conditional love. I had my diploma, I had a full scholarship to a new university far away, and I had the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes The best revenge is simply the truth. The drive home from graduation felt different. Not sad, but liberated. I pulled into the small apartment complex I'd secretly rented months ago. Inside, memories flooded back. I was 3 when they brought me home. Vivian, always impeccable, always slightly detached. Robert, quiet, always agreeing with her. Our house, elegant and cold, never felt entirely mine. My adoptive mother, Vivian, was everything Caitlin was not, while Caitlin, my biological mother's sister Aunt Sarah, was warm, humble, and believed in genuine connection. Vivian was sharp, polished, and obsessed with appearances. She lived for the approval of her social circle, and every aspect of our lives was curated for public consumption. Chloe, darling, she'd often say, her smile tight, you simply must maintain appearances. People are always watching. This sentiment was a constant undercurrent, implying my value was tied to how well I reflected on her. Vivian never called me daughter casually. It was always Chloe, or the child we adopted. Family dinners felt like press conferences where I was expected to report on achievements that would bolster their image. Our rare vacations were always cut short by Vivian's important social engagements. Robert, my adoptive stepfather, merely nodded along, his eyes averting whenever I tried to catch his gaze, a silent acknowledgement of Vivian's subtle cruelty. Aunt Sarah, Vivian's quiet, artistic younger sister, was different. She had visited us sporadically when I was very young, always bringing me small, meaningful gifts and sharing stories of my biological mother, her late sister. Sarah was a free spirit, much to Vivian's thinly veiled disdain. Sarah told me stories about my biological mother being a kind, vibrant artist and how circumstances prevented her from raising me. Before Sarah passed away when I was 12, she left me a small, locked wooden box. Open this when you're ready. Chloe, her note read, it contains truths you deserve to know. That box became my secret comfort, a link to a love that felt far more genuine than Vivian's. After Aunt Sarah passed, Vivian intensified her campaign of refinement. I was enrolled in etiquette classes, public speaking courses, anything to make me presentable. Every achievement was met with a critical eye. Good, but you could have done better. Chloe, remember, you reflect on this family. The message was clear. I was a perpetual project, never quite good enough. The deeper emotional wound was Vivian's deliberate emotional erasure, her consistent invalidation of my intrinsic worth, a calculated act for appearances. She wasn't just detached, she was actively trying to reshape me into a trophy, not a person. The day I finally opened Aunt Sarah's box was a turning point. Inside, nestled among my biological mother's faded sketches and pressed wildflowers, was a bundle of letters. Letters from Aunt Sarah to my biological mother, discussing not just me, but a first child. A child Vivian had given birth 2 years before adopting me, a child she'd quietly placed for adoption or somehow disappeared to avoid a scandal. The letters spoke of Vivian's frantic efforts to hide the pregnancy, her fear of public judgment, and her ruthlessness in maintaining her pristine social standing. One letter specifically detailed a difficult situation. With a previous obligation that Vivian had handled before marrying Robert, the subtext was chilling. Vivian had erased a child from her life for appearances. My heart pounded. This was Vivian's true secret? I realized then that Vivian's disownment was not just about control. It was a desperate attempt to sever ties before her past came to light. She assumed I was merely an adopted child, unaware of her deeper secrets. She had underestimated me. The DNA test results I also found in the box, confirming my connection to Aunt Sarah's side of the family and implicitly, Vivian's as well, were the final piece of the puzzle. This wasn't about revenge, it was about exposing hypocrisy and reclaiming my own narrative. At the university reception after graduation, reporters swarmed. Robert, looking devastated, stumbled through awkward questions. Vivian, when questioned about her public outburst, tried to regain composure. It was a misunderstanding, a difficult family matter, she stammered, her voice strained, but her eyes darted to me. I walked past them, my diploma clutched in my hand, heading for my new, independent life. The crowd was still buzzing, phones alight. My story was already viral. Let them talk. I was finally free. My life transformed. I used my scholarship to excel in my chosen field, embracing my creativity, no longer seeking approval. I started volunteering at a local youth shelter, mentoring young people who felt unwanted or misunderstood. I made peace with my past, not by forgetting, but by transforming it into a source of strength. Vivian and Robert tried to contest the legal implications of my actions, but with the public record of her disownment, and the evidence of her secret, their attempts were futile. The truth, once unleashed, shattered their world. Sometime later, I visited Aunt Sarah's grave. "Thank you," I whispered, placing a single white lily. "Thank you for the truth. Thank you for showing me what true family love feels like." If my story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for listening. And Arlo, tell me in the from where you are watching from.